Thank you for listening to the Tattness podcast on the Tattness Co. Network.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. A Mercedes kind of sentiment, luxury, and trust in me to honor the free we all should be. It sees my sundial burst into yin and yang, right and left me.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Tattness podcast. My guest today is super talented and an absolute sweetheart of a human being. And I highly recommend you check out her music because it's so different, it's so cool, it's so well done. Just an insane amount of talent. And one of the best conversations I've had in a while. I could have talked to her forever. Mira Morningstar, one of the coolest fucking people I've ever had on my show. And we get into a really heavy conversation about how we're all kind of like slaves to the industry and how slavery may be abolished, but in our own respect, we really are kind of slaves to our industry. And this came up after me discovering that my net worth was on the internet. And it's like the fact that we even put a dollar value on human beings is fucking insane, dude. And, it's like we're bought and sold. And it just comes in the form of success now, you know what I mean, these days, and it's fucking crazy. So it was a really deep conversation that we had about this, and, I love her insight. I love that, her and I kind of agree on everything, but she brings a lot to the table that I never considered, and we have a really cool conversation. Absolute sweetheart of a human being, and I hope you dig the show, and I know you will because you can't not love this girl. And let me tell you, man, that accent, I could listen to it all damn day, so maybe that's why we talk so fucking long. But yeah, it's not just that I don't know when to shut the hell up, right? But anyways, check her out, Mira Morningstar. Hope you dig it. All right, so I'm pretty sure you know by now that the way this works is uncensored means just that, so you can say whatever the fuck you want.
Awesome, yeah. I love that.
Yeah,
what made you come up with that? I think that's just when you reached out to me, I thought, wow, in this day and age where you've got all this stuff like extreme cancel culture and Facebook censoring you all the time, everything's censored, to then going, hey, I'm doing a podcast where you can say whatever you want and it's not censored. It's just awesome. What made you come up with that?
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. That exact reason, really. I've always been that type of person that, I don't believe in silencing people. I may not agree with everything that they have to say or their point of view or whatever, but, I respect their right to have it. And I think it's, their right to explain themselves if they feel the need, if they feel a certain way. Life is about different perspectives and points of view. So I honestly feel like if somebody has a point of view I don't necessarily, share with them, I'm always curious to hear what makes them, you know what I mean? Like, I feel like opinions come from experience. So we're not going to have the same life experiences as other people. Some of us have it have had way tougher shit happen than others. And I think that really affects the point of view. So I always think it's interesting when you have somebody like myself who's had a really rough experience growing up and whatever versus somebody who is extremely sheltered, for example, because you're going to see the world completely differently. And that's where I found it was the most interesting, because it's hard to really say somebody's wrong for their point of view because you're not seeing it through their eyes because you've had a completely different experience. You know what I mean? So for that very reason, I think cancel culture, things like that, I can't stand. So, I don't mind challenging somebody if their point of view is not exactly the most popular or seems a little bit, jaded. I don't bring people on that have like hate speech agendas and crap like that. There's certain lines that I just don't think there's any justification for. But I do like to hear other people's points of view on things, and censorship, I think, is becoming way too normalized. So I look forward to the hate mail when I never had any yet, which is weird.
Have you not?
Not a thing. No negative reviews, no hate mail, no, nothing, which is really crazy to me. But I think it's because I've set that standard from right out the gate where people just know, okay, he's going to say some shit,
Yeah, there's no point. You're going to say it anyway. So,
Right. But it's also that people, I think, respect the fact that I'm not one to say something just for shock value. I think that's cheap. I don't think that holds any merit whatsoever. I think that's just people trying to get some cheap viewership, just trying to be controversial for the sake of doing it, right?
No, yeah, I don't like that.
Yeah, it's too gimmicky.
I get it if you have a deeper message to share and you want to raise awareness, and sometimes a little bit of shock value can help. But yeah, I mean, otherwise you wouldn't get animal rights demos showing the shocking footage,
right,
to wake people up. If you just showed animals in a cutesy way, people wouldn't really bat an eyelid. And I was like, oh yeah, there's a cute sheep, but yeah,
right, and that's.
I think.
Go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's just saying. I think if you have a reason to use a little bit of shock value, then maybe go for it. But yeah, I think it's a fine line, and there are probably better ways to go about it as well these days.
Yeah, I feel like it's it's pretty clearly disingenuous when somebody's just trying to get easy viewership. Whereas sometimes you're going to organically say something that it's your point of view, and maybe it will be shocking to people just because it's something most people don't openly say. Like I've gotten into conversations on the show, and I thought this one was going to get me so much hate because there's so many people that are really fragile, and they'll only pick and choose like key words out of a sentence that they hear because they have an agenda. They want to be upset about something. They want to be like outraged by something. So I talked about feminism and horror movies, and if there's any correlation there, because there's people that actually believe that horror movies are sexist towards women, and it's like, really? There's so many female actors that like that's all they've ever done was horror movies, and they feel very differently about it. I mean, if you look at a lot of horror movies as examples, it's typically a female character that survives right through the very end, which is pretty empowering in the view of most women that are involved in those movies. So and then they're like, oh, but the sexualization is like, it's about teenagers who are like, in everybody's experience, they're walking balls of hormones, man. It works both ways. It's both genders, just it's called being a teenager, and it's to cater to the teen audience. It's not trying to objectify one gender. It's it's just kind of showing teenagers what they can relate to, right?
That's odd, because I never really thought that of horror. I used to, when I was younger, I used to watch The Ring all the time, all the versions, whether they were the Japanese ones or the American one. I love them all. And I mean, look at Samara. How is that sexist? Like, she is really scary,
right?
And she is not the victim. I mean, she is, but yeah. So that's just one example that just randomly pops up in my head. But yeah, I don't know. I don't really tend to watch much horror anymore.
Really?
I don't know why. I used to be a huge horror fan.
Yeah, I'm picky with it though. I'm not like a huge like gore person. I don't love that kind of crap. Again, it goes back to like doing shit for shock value. I prefer something that has a cool story to it. Like, I'm a huge Nightmare on Elm Street guy. Like, I love that shit. I grew up with it, and now I'm friends with people that are involved in it. So
oh, cool.
Yeah, so I mean, stuff like that I'm such a fan of. But anything that's like over the top, like graphic just for the sake of doing it, I'm like, like, no thanks, I'm good. Yeah,
also, you don't really want that stored in your brain all the time,
right.
Like this gory stuff, like it does get stored in your brain, and whether you feel it in the moment of watching it or not, I don't think that's very good. Like, in the long run, I think this can really, I'm not saying it will cause a mental illness, but Like for me personally, I used to work for Viva, an animal rights charity, in my 20s, and I thought that the more gory stuff I witnessed from animals, and I mean that was like a horror movie to me. Every day going to work was like watching a horror movie, you know, the undercover footage and stuff, how these animals were abused. And I thought, well, I'm just going to have to toughen up and I'm just going to have to get through this. And I did that for years. And it just, I got almost, no, got a form of post-traumatic stress disorder from it, really. I'm okay now, but yeah, that kind of taught me that having those kind of images flood your brain on a regular basis is probably not the healthiest thing to go through.
Yeah, it's pretty heavy stuff. It's dark, you know. And to think that people are capable of that kind of crap, you know, is pretty disturbing. So, and I feel the same way with certain types of movies, like, you know, all that torture porn type shit. I'm like, it disturbs me that like somebody's mind came up with this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's just really dark, and it's like, not for me. So, you know, I'm picky about it. Like, I thought Halloween was great because there was like no blood in the first one, and no one really paid any attention to it. It was just so well done that nobody even realized, like, hell, this wasn't graphic at all. There wasn't even any blood in it or anything. It was just about suspenseful, you know, kills and shit. And that's what made people like appreciate it. It was very artistically done. And then there's the complete opposite, where there's shit like Hostel and stuff like that, which is like, I will never see that in my life. I will never watch that crap.
Don't do it.
No.
I did it, unfortunately. With my brother at the time, I don't know why, and I hated it. It makes me feel sick just thinking about it. So yeah, you definitely have not missed a thing.
Yeah, I mean,
you finish watching it and you just go, why did they put that out there? Like, what value do you get out of that?
Exactly.
Like, I have enough of my own imagination. If I really want to go down the dark alleyways of my mind, I can do that on my own. I don't really need help for that.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you know, my whole thought process with that was just like, who gets off on people suffering? Like, how is that entertaining to people? That's so fucked up to me.
Yeah, I think, you know, being naturally quite a sensitive person, like when I was younger, I always thought that being sensitive is a bad thing. And I felt like I needed to toughen myself up. And I think that's why I went through a short phase of watching stuff like that, and really gory things. And I think even on YouTube, but I soon realized that it's not actually helping anything. It's not making me feel less. Right. I still care so much about everything. So yeah, best to just embrace who you are and not try and change that, because it's like really ultimately nothing wrong with being sensitive. So
absolutely, you know, being compassionate and all that. And then I find those people are the ones that try to like harden up. And then it's like, but then you're going to be just like the people that, you know, probably could stand to be a little more compassionate and sensitive. It's always a trade-off. Like, nobody wants to be what they are, I guess.
I guess, yeah.
You know, it's everyone views what their personality is as some kind of like flaw or something, and it's like, no, that's actually a good thing to be, you know, maybe too soft-hearted to get off on watching people get tortured and massacred and shit, you know.
Yeah, I think it was also my friends at the time. I hung out with people who were just watching that kind of stuff all day long, and they were all guys, you know, my boyfriend's friends, and like a whole group of them. So there's a little bit of peer pressure there as well. They were all a little bit older than me, and I felt like, oh no, I don't want to be the scared little girl, you know. And also, you know, having grown up with brothers, I have no sisters, so I'm used to that kind of thing. So yeah, when you're growing up, you want a bit of shock, and you want to prove that you're hard. And like, for some reason, I thought I had to join in, but yeah, I'm glad I'm over all that.
Yeah, I think that happens with everybody at a young age too, right? Trying to figure it out and see what it is that, you know, you're into, and you get into some weird shit that you're like, okay, this definitely ain't for me. You know, it's all right to hang out with people that like this kind of shit, but it's not for me.
Yeah. Well, no, I just hang out in the unicorn realm completely. I love everything fantasy and unicorns and things that install hope and that make me feel enriched and, magic. And yeah, I mean, if you've been, not that, I'm like a witch or anything, but I do think if you put positivity out there, it comes back to you. And I would rather put my energy towards things like that, nourishing movies, nourishing music. Yeah, I
Yeah,
just
that's what makes what you do so awesome. It's so unique. I was tripping out because it's like this is like the most mellow stuff I've ever heard, and I loved it. Especially with
oh, thanks.
hey, like even with the amount of weed I smoke, it just kind of puts me in that mellow place where it's like, oh, this is great. Especially with all the shit I deal with all the time. It's like to kind of de-stress, and it's like, man, this is cool. So I immediately loved what you did. So I was like, I got to get you on the show.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Thank you so much. It's always lovely to hear that. Because it's such an intimate little process. I'm completely self-taught. I do everything on my own, and to then put it out to the world, you're making yourself pretty vulnerable, and it's always amazing when people actually listen to it and give you honest feedback. And every time it's like, oh wow, I kind of forgot that I put it out there. Like that's like my creative child, and I just let it out there and do whatever it does in the world. And then people come back at me just the other day, and somebody said, oh, I had a really, really crap day. And then I found your Facebook ad and signed up for the 3 songs. And now I'm so relaxed. Thank you so much. And, when you hear stuff like that, it just makes it all worth it. I'm like, yes, I can't wait to put my 3rd album out now, because then I can help even more people chill out, because we really need that, in this day and age where anxiety is probably the bigger pandemic even than COVID, and like all the stress that comes before it and afterwards. I think relaxation is something that we all need, so I feel really honored that I can provide just a little bit of that for people.
Yeah, and I think that's what a lot of people forget is that artists are very sensitive about their shit, and they should be. Everything we do is our art form, and we put our selves into it. So yeah, when somebody digs what you do, it's really cool. And it kind of lets you know you're on the right track, right? But at the end of the day, for the most part, it's usually for yourself more than anything. It's therapy, right? So it's just kind of cool when other people appreciate your therapy. You know what I mean? But yeah, I saw your stuff was so unique, and I was like, that is really cool, and that's brave as hell, because in the music industry especially, it was so funny how back in the day, if you sounded too much like somebody else, then you were shit by everybody's standpoint. And now if you don't sound like everybody else, then people just don't want to hear it. So I thought it was super brave to kind of go totally against what's really going on right now and do something so unique and offer something so different. I think that's what makes it so great is there's a lot of bravery to it, you know what I mean? To just be like, hey man, this is what I'm into, and it's not going to be that cookie cutter mainstream shit that's out right now, and it still found its market, which is cool.
I don't even know what mainstream is anymore. In the day of the internet, it just seems like everything's a little micro niche of its own. I when I go to the supermarket now or something, they just play 90s music. So it's like, oh, it's my childhood, hello. But yeah, what is actually mainstream? I no longer know. But yeah, no, I fully believe in with whatever your creative outlet is, to just be yourself, to create what you would like to see, create what you would like to hear, and there will be people just like you who want the same thing. And because because if you do it the other way round, I think it just doesn't really work for art. They always say, oh, for example, with entrepreneurship, you have to find your audience, know what they like, and then give them what they want. I think, and for musicians and artists, it's a little bit different. You kind of create, and then you see who fits what I've created.
Exactly.
And that way, you meet so many like-minded people. It's just amazing how much you have in common. Like, I'm sure you found that as well. Suddenly it's like, wow, I've got so many brothers and sisters I didn't even know.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes it's in the weirdest form too. Like I had on my show Kenny Olson, who was a guitarist for Kid Rock, and him and I immediately got along like we've known each other forever. And I was like, dude, back in '99, I sat in a basement in some shithole ghetto watching you play Woodstock '99. And here I am now sitting here talking to you. It's mind blowing. And it's like how much we have in common. And it's just like we became brothers like immediately. And it's like small world, dude. Like art can do that, it's crazy. And like to your point, I think that's exactly it, where marketing for a business, because I own my own business, and it's like you have to typically in business find your market, whereas with music it's like you let your market find you. And I think that's great. I think that's how it should be. And I just think it's so cool that somebody's doing something so different and just kind of like, this is for me. And if you dig it, cool. If not, who cares, right? It's like, this is more for me. This is me doing what I dig. And I think that's, the kind of bravery that the industry needs, because there's too much copycat shit out there that's like so cookie cutter and so like everything sounds the same these days. You can't tell who's doing what, because it's like it's all the same shit, and it's so technology based, and it's like it's really taken the soul out of everything. I think it's almost like a lot of shit today, especially in the rap industry, I feel a lot of it could be done without the person themselves, because it sounds so robotic and so like technology based that it's kind of losing the human aspect to it.
Yeah. Also, I think a lot of it, like without geeking out too much, a lot of it is the production nowadays. Back in the day, like music from 80s, 90s, I think it started around 2000 when post-production was all about compression. Everything is over compressed. And the more compression you apply to a track, the more tiring it becomes to the ear. I don't know, for example, if you've noticed, but the oldies, you can listen to them forever and you don't get tired of it. And I think part of it is not only great songwriting, it's also the production, that they didn't make it so tiring. There's no dynamic range anymore, and that's hugely unnatural. Like, for example, as I'm speaking now, my voice will go slightly up in level as I'm excited and slightly down. And compression sort of brings it all on one level. And if you overdo that, it just gets tiring. And yeah, that's just one of the things that I've noticed. Like, I just keep going back to, my favorite band is Dead Can Dance. And when I listen to remastered stuff that came out in the 80s or 90s and now it's remastered, I don't like it as much. It's the same stuff, but like it's got something missing. It's a little bit like vinyl versus CD, or vinyl versus MP3.
Right. I was actually making that comparison too. I've always said, like, say a band like Nirvana, for example. I always felt for some reason that their stuff on vinyl probably was as close as how it was intended to sound as we'd ever get, versus CD. I think the quality was intended to be more for vinyl because it just like sounds more raw, you know what I mean? Where other bands are way too polished and that's their goal, and then it's like, okay, now try to recreate that live when everything's done in the studio, and then live it sounds like shit. You know what I mean?
Oh, I love that. I love really like raw material. I love Nirvana too. I mean, imagine them polished. That's just a nightmare.
Right.
That's a horror movie in itself, you know, polished Nirvana. What the heck would that sound like?
I love that comparison because to me, it's like they are basically the horror movie of music because horror movies share that in common where the more gritty it looks, the better, the more realistic it looks. When it's too polished and too Hollywood, it just doesn't have the same effect anymore.
No, right. Also, because you need something for your imagination. I think if everything's spoon fed to you, you know, your brain won't do the rest of the work, and then you won't get so engrossed in it. And it's a bit like, you know, when you read a really good book, and then the movie is never quite the same, unless the adaptation is phenomenal, you know. But that's often the case. Like if you give people too much, it's just not as fun. And it's the same with gaming for me. Actually, I love retro adventure games back from, or even just in that style, but you know, from the 90s or whenever it is, like King's Quest and Monkey Island and all that stuff. And you know, it was so pixelated, like you couldn't hardly work out what your inventory was, what was in there. Like what do I combine with what? And but it made you think, and it and that got you, with a good storyline, that got you hooked. And if I play games nowadays, I just can't get into them. Like Skyrim, for example. I know so many fantasy lovers are always going on about it, and yes, the music is awesome and stuff, but I just can't do it. I can't lose myself in it. And I think I just need more raw material.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, there's a lot of games where it's lacking in story and things like that. I think one of the last games that had a story that I could really get involved in that I loved was back in the late 90s when Final Fantasy VII came out. That was so good. But I mean, you go back to what we have now, where it's almost like watching a movie with some of these games. The graphics are so crazy, but I would take Mario 1 from the 80s like over half of this stuff because it's simplistic, but it's fun still.
Definitely. You like Mario as well? That's cool.
Absolutely. Or like Zelda even was like still to this day it holds up.
Do you mean the SNES, Super Nintendo?
Yeah.
Like that. I love the soundtrack. It's just so amazing. I meditate to it sometimes. It's like the quirkiest meditation music, but it's fucking awesome.
It
I
really
really love stuff like that. I've still got a SNES, and I still dig it out very regularly to have a little play, because muscle memory kicks in, and you get the old Nintendo thumb injuries back. Like,
right. You're like 10 and you have arthritis already.
Oh god.
I actually have a mini Super Nintendo system that's like all the games are built in.
Cool.
Yeah, they come out with them seasonally, and then once they're gone, they're gone. They've done it with the regular Nintendo, then the Super, and then Sega Genesis and PlayStation 1. So they're like these little, they're literally like they'll fit in your hand, and it's all USB based. And so what we would like end up doing is like I would buy one and I'd get my producer to, like, she knows shit about computers. I'm like fucking just hopeless with this shit. But so my producer would fucking rig it up for me to a PC and get drivers for any game that wasn't, because they would come with like 40 games built in. And I ended up getting the drivers and had every Super Nintendo game ever made installed into this thing. So literally any game that ever existed, I have it now on this little thing, so I could play whatever. So that's really cool.
Wow, that sounds really cool. Do you get the same like experience when you play it? Does it feel similar with the buttons and stuff? Or?
The controllers are just like the old school.
Oh, cool.
They're just wireless now, I believe, if I remember correctly. I haven't played mine in a bit. Or no, they do have a little bit of a cord to them, but you know, for the most part, it's still pretty convenient. But it's the exact same type of controllers. It's the same games, no like remastering or anything. It's just as you remember them, and then you realize how difficult some of them were. You don't remember how hard they were, but it's like, damn, this game's tough. Yeah.
Oh God, yeah. There's a Smurfs. That's probably the hardest Nintendo game I've ever played. The Smurfs. I don't know if you've ever tried it, but it's impossible. Like, it's just I still got. I've I've played this since I was what 12 or younger, and I still can't play it. Like I still haven't finished it. It's too hard.
Right. And to think that half these games are like geared towards kids, and it's like,
Exactly.
what kid is beating this? Like,
Oh gosh, probably some cool Korean kid, like they're just nuts when they get the control in their hands and just beat everyone at that game.
I still play Mario Kart quite a bit. I still love it.
Oh, they're the best games. Still addictive.
Yeah, you know, uh, I found just uh this year for the first time I got into like shrooms because I respect what they're capable of. I'm glad that in high school I never touched the stuff because people were like doing shrooms just to get fucked up, and I'm like, that's not the move, man. You got to respect them and they'll respect you, and you could have like this really cool experience where it's like it just takes away any ego that people have. You know what I mean? If even if you didn't realize that there's a trace of that there, it just makes you realize that we're all just a small little piece of, this bigger picture, and, just a cog in the wheel, basically, like a spoke in the wheel that without us, it still goes on, and it's pretty humbling stuff. Right. So,
Wow. I've
but
never tried shrooms, but I've heard really good stuff about it. For example, I think it's supposed to help with depression,
yeah.
and it's supposed to rewire your brain. Is that right, or something?
Absolutely. It actually fixes damaged brain cells and things and bridges those gaps that cause anxiety and depression and stuff like that. And there's a whole documentary about that and LSD and stuff like that, where in the 70s, I believe it was, maybe the 60s, there was a university where somebody was starting to gain a lot of traction in researching and finding out that information. So the US government shut them down immediately and fired the guy unceremoniously because that was taking away business from like big pharma, you know what I mean? And so they didn't want that getting out to the public, that you could actually cure mental illness with this if you're handling it properly. And so it's kind of shady how everything's about the almighty dollar, not about people's well-being. You know what I
I
mean?
know. Gosh, I know. Tell me about it. I'm friends with so many herbalists, and they always talk about this sort of stuff. It's nature has given us pretty much everything we need. There's a German saying, "Gegen alles ist ein Kraut gewachsen," and it means there is a herb for everything. And I love that, and I think it's definitely true. I mean, most medicines that we have nowadays, most pharmaceuticals, they come from herbs. All of this used to be herbalism, and then we turned it like into completely processed stuff. Like we eat too much processed foods, and now we have processed medication as well. And of course, it's going to have side effects, and of course, it's not going to be as good. How can it be? We are nature. We are humans. We're an animal. We need to, we need to go back to those ways and have proper nutrition and have herbs to help cure our ailments. Like I fully believe in that. But of course, you can't really make much money with that because everybody can go out and collect shrooms. Everyone can grow weed in their back garden, and so there's no money to be made then. And yeah, it sucks.
Yeah, I agree. I don't take pills of any kind. Never take medications of any kind. And I eat clean. I don't like processed food. So, people trip out because I'm so strict like that, but it's like, dude, you have no idea what you're doing to yourself. But shrooms, I'll tell you right now, because if you take enough, you will start to see things like that. Like I remember seeing it, if you stare at the wall enough, it looks like it's breathing.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's really trippy. So I had this genius idea. I was going to play Mario Kart on Rainbow Road while tripping. And it was like the most gorgeous thing I've ever seen.
Oh my God. Oh.
My driving skills weren't as beautiful, but you know, you can't win them all.
I wish you could have recorded that somehow.
You know, I wish there was a way to record it as like the way you're seeing it, because it was so cool. You got this rainbow road that you're driving on in space, and you're like tripping on shrooms. So you're like, damn, this is cool. It is so colorful and just like, you know, uh, it's such a trip. But I make like shroom tea. So you soak the shrooms in lemon juice, because the lemon, like the citric acid, is the closest thing to stomach acid. So it actually processes the shrooms before your stomach does. So that way it hits you quicker. And then once it sits for like 20 minutes in the lemon juice, then you make steep tea out of it. So then it when you drink it within 15 minutes, you're like, oh, here we go.
Oh, I don't know. If visuals, they would probably freak me out, in all honesty. I've always been, yeah, a little bit. If I see stuff that's not really there, I would probably panic, you know, and think, oh, what if it never goes away? And what if I see something that I don't want to see? But yes, I think people like me are probably not so good on that. But, you know, God forbid, if I ever became so depressed that I wanted to kill myself, and I'm not like you, I don't like to take pills. I tried antidepressants in the past, and it made my problems 1,000 times worse. Then I would totally microdose on it. Definitely. I mean, better than poisoning yourself.
Absolutely. Microdosing is actually a wonderful thing too. And I think people expect too much when they take shrooms. They think that they're going to see a bunch of crazy shit. It's like you have to take a pretty fucking like heroic dose to see things, like really see things. Um, you know, so I think the most I've ever seen was like when I look at like a tile floor and it's got those little like black specks in the tile, it will literally look like they're kind of like moving. You know what I mean? Like an ocean or something, like not like bugs or anything creepy, but almost like just like this mellow movement that makes you feel relaxed. And it's like, oh, that's cool. And then you can't help but stare at it for a while,
Wow.
because it's just so mellow. You know what I mean? And basically what people need to understand with stuff like shrooms is like you have to go into it with an intent. You have to set your intent, and you have to kind of go into it with a positive mindset and figure out what it is you expect from it, what you want from it. Because to say, okay, I just want to get fucked up, it's like you're gonna have a bad time, bro. They are something that need to be respected, and they will respect you. If you are disrespecting the substance, they will let you have it, and it's not fun because your trip will last 8 hours. So you don't want to like it. Basically, I think shrooms, what they do is they accentuate whatever you're feeling. So like if you're super depressed at the moment, I wouldn't touch them, because it's just gonna you know, like really exemplify, you know, and amplify what you're going through, and it's going to make an example of, you know, all the times that, you know, there's something that made you feel that way, and it's just going to be a shitty day. But if you're feeling, you know, kind of like you want to be connected more, or understand things more, it definitely will do that for you. You just have to kind of go into it saying, okay, this is what I want from this, and that's what you'll get, because that's what you're focused on. So it really does, you know, exacerbate what you're feeling. So you want to go into it on the right foot, basically, and you'll have a great time, because you'll come out of it feeling, you know, kind of humbled and really feel like you get it now. And you end up like I made the mistake one time of going on the internet while tripping, and social media specifically.
No.
And to go into like a comment section and just see the most hateful shit that a stranger is saying to somebody else because they don't agree on something. And it just hit me in such a way where like it was such an empathy thing where I just felt like it was being said to me personally. And I was just like, why do people do this to each other? Like, I just couldn't wrap my head around it. And I just felt like, you know, everybody should just be cool. That's all. I had this overwhelming feeling of like, why can't people just be cool? You know what I mean? And like, what's the sense in doing this shit to each other over an opinion? When nobody's necessarily right. You know what I mean? Again, it's all about perspective, and different people that have different life experiences are going to experience things differently and see things differently. I think that's across the board. There are people that will have a certain feeling towards, say men or something, because they've had a terrible experience 9 times out of 10 with men. So now, of course, they're not trusting towards men because of their experience. And it's like, if you've not had that experience, you can't understand that mindset. You know what I mean? Like, you can't appreciate where they're coming from. So then you feel so strongly.
Right.
Maybe you've had the complete opposite experience where like everybody that you ever looked up to was a male or something. So you're going to feel like they're totally out of line for feeling the way they do, but you have no idea. You haven't experienced what they have. So I feel like, that goes for anything. But imagine somebody going into a comment section, and for example, it's probably the stupidest example, but let's just say something as simple as like, I don't like pizza. And people are like, you're a fucking idiot. Like, what? You like that escalated quickly, like Jesus. Why? Like I always kind of put it out there and said, like, I've never, in all the time I've been on the internet, I've never once seen somebody say, okay, complete stranger, since you put it that way and told me I'm a complete fucking idiot for having this point of view, now I see things your way and I've totally changed my perspective. What's the sense?
It's also just a bit mad if you put this outside of social media and put this like in the busy city center or like a main street or high street as we call it here, and some random person comes up to you and shouts, I hate fucking pizza, you'd be like, okay, thank you, and just walk past, but it seems to be normal online. Or, oh, I don't like the way you dress, or you should put on weight, or you should lose weight, or you know people wouldn't do that to each other in the street. Why are they doing that on the internet? Like,
right,
it's mental.
they don't have to worry about getting punched in the mouth on the
I
internet.
guess, yeah. Keyboard warriors, that's where that came from. Yeah.
It's just people have a block button. It's like, I could talk shit and then I don't want to hear your rebuttal, I'll just block you, and that's that.
Yeah.
It's just kind of creating a whole lot of cowardice, I think. And it's funny that everybody has a soapbox now, but not necessarily an opinion worth hearing. So, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I feel like for the longest time now, since the internet and everybody has a platform to say shit, it's like everybody has this fucking agenda. Like, everybody seems to have some kind of, like, people want to make everything into a cause, and it's so ridiculous. Not everything needs attention and to be made into a big deal, but there are people that like we talked about feminism in horror movies and shit, and it's like, really, I don't think some people get what feminism was actually meant to be. It's not everything is feminism. Just because you say it's a female issue doesn't make it feminism. Sometimes you're being ridiculous. There's
Exactly.
fabrications and shit that's typically aren't even close to accurate, and it's like, you'll have actual feminists calling them out like, that's not a feminist issue, you're just being fucking stupid because you want to voice your opinion and be outraged by something, and it's like, this isn't what it's about. And then people take things to extremes, and it's like, it's almost like, why the fuck did we give everybody a soapbox to stand on? Because not everybody has anything worth talking about.
I think it takes practice, right? Because the internet is still pretty young and it's a new thing in our culture. So yeah, I think probably a few decades down the line we'll be more trained up for this. But yeah, those things really harm the causes. An actual feminist will always get annoyed by somebody being completely against, I don't know, the word menstruation, because it's got the word men in it, you know. I'm like, oh, for God's sake, why have you got no other problems, you know? Like, I never thought about that, and I'm a woman, so and there are countless examples like that, you know, where people just get off on the wrong thing and put so much energy into something where they could be, if they really want to raise awareness and they really want to change the world, then oftentimes it's getting up, step away from your computer and go do something out there, help someone, talk to people, you know. And yeah, if you're really so annoyed about the state of the world, I get you, I feel like that, but yeah, the trick is often, you know, to just take action, and you'll feel better for it too. You won't feel so frustrated, like nothing is moving, because you've helped shift a little bit maybe. And yeah, and all this aggression doesn't help either. You know, how is someone going to listen to your opinion if you're just shouting at them? They're just going to close up immediately.
Well, that's just
Yeah.
and that example is so brilliant, because that's the kind of prime example that I'm talking about, and you nailed it. Like, the word men is in there. Let's throw a fucking fit and let's change the English language because it fucking pisses me off. You know, like, really? Entitlement much? And, you know, again, I feel it's people just trying to feel important, like they have some big cause to battle. And it's like, is that really your hill to die on? You know, like, it's a fucking word that's been around longer than you, and you want to come along and change that. It's so bizarre to me. And then you get like all the racial shit, which is really funny sometimes, because it's like, notice how it's never really the people that are the subject matter that are offended by something. It's people being offended on their behalf. And it's like,
Yeah.
they're grown. They don't need you to tell them what the fuck's offensive to them. You know, I'm part Irish, and I don't give a fuck if somebody, you know, uses every Irish stereotype out there for their own humor. I think it's funny too. I don't need somebody coming along who's like Polish and be like, how dare you? The Irish don't deserve this. Like, simmer down. It'll be fine. You know?
Yeah.
I don't need Americans to be offended on behalf of Canadians because they have fucking, you know, a few cracks to make about us and whatever. It's all in fun. Like, calm down.
Exactly, it's the intention behind it. If you're just highlighting another culture's highlights, like for example, I'm partially German, so you know, I get like the whole kraut thing thrown at me. I'm not offended. I think it's funny, you know. Unless, of course, it's said in a hurtful and hateful way, then I'm like, yeah, you're an asshole for saying that. But yeah, it's all about the intention, and it's gone way out of hand. Like, my family's so multicultural. I'm part Indian, part German slash actually Lithuanian. Then I've got a brother who is half African. I've got another brother who's half Chinese. So you know, we've got like we've got a lot in there. And so if I wanted to, I could get offended for every single nation, almost. But I'm not. It depends on the intention behind it.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's context. You know what I mean? If something comes from a place of love and you know, it's all in fun, then what's the point of getting all upset about it? But I think people fail to see the correlation there. Is like, you ask yourself, what kind of fucking miserable life must that be to be offended on behalf of everybody for everything? But then it's like, that's why these people are so miserable, because they're putting that on themselves. You know what I mean? They're strapping that to their back like it's their fucking burden to carry, when the people that it's directed at actually find it amusing. They're not bothered by it.
Yeah, exactly. And this whole, I mean, racism as a whole, I don't understand. We're all human. Like, we are one race. We are the human race. We're just different colors. Like, so it's interesting. It's good. And different cultures, and we can learn from one another. And you know, that goes for everything. Like, it doesn't matter how much I dislike a person. I swear they have probably something to teach me too. You know, and it doesn't matter who it is. I'm pretty sure you can learn from everyone. There's something about them, a story, a skill, something that they could teach you, and the same goes for you. And that kind of thing would create far more of unison, really. But yeah, unfortunately, we're not there yet, and everyone's got their own little demons to slay there. But it's just food for thought, and something I like to meditate on a lot. Yeah, it would be nice. I'm just spinning my own fairy tale here, where we're all happy and being kind to each other, and just accepting one another for who we are and celebrating that.
Absolutely. I always said if everybody did shrooms, I think the world would be so much more mellow and less hateful. So that's why it'll probably never be legalized. who's gonna fight your wars for oil and shit when everyone's just like, too humbled and compassionate towards everybody that they're like, I'm not taking lives for fucking money.
Right, exactly.
It's stupid, so it's crazy. And going back to how sensitive people are and how like fragile people are, like someone sees things differently than me, it's so ridiculous. And you can't go on the internet without seeing it. But I saw a picture that I ended up stealing because it was so funny, of a dude getting loaded into an ambulance, and it says man in critical condition after hearing slightly differing point of view. And I was like, if that shit ain't accurate.
That just makes a brilliant point right there. Yeah.
My God, I thought that was the greatest thing ever. Like, fucking some people are really that fragile that they'll have a meltdown over, somebody seeing something quite differently or slightly differently than you do.
Oh, yeah. Where does that come from? Is that an internet thing, just being offended all the time?
Yeah, I mean, it makes me wonder, before there was the internet, was this still going on? It's just we didn't have a way for people to announce it to everyone?
I guess.
Or is this like a generational thing where everybody's a victim of something in their mind? That's why I loved how you talk about meditation, and musically what you do is so good for people, to just kind of not have to overthink things or stress out. It actually does the opposite. It calms people down, mellows them out. Because I feel like, honestly, and this is another controversial thing that I've talked about on my show, that I expected hate mail from people, but I never got anything but praise for this, because a lot of people felt like it needed to be said. I just honestly feel like with this mental illness uprising, I feel like a lot of this shit is so self-diagnosed. And it's like, if you've not had a professional tell you that, yeah, chemically in your brain, there's something going on, that, you have depression, like clinical depression, you're probably not suffering from like depression. And it's like, you guys have to understand, if something terrible and sad happens in your life, being sad about it is totally a reasonable reaction to it. It doesn't mean you have mental illness. It's okay to not be okay. Like, if something tragic happens, it's totally okay to fucking, be affected by it and be sad by it. Doesn't mean that means, suddenly you have mental illness. I think people just are so quick to kind of diagnose themselves and be like, oh, now I'm fucked. It's like, no, you just had it rough lately and it's adding up, and it's a totally reasonable reaction.
Yeah, of course. It's called grief as well, and you really need to face it, because otherwise something else will fester inside you, and it can become a physical thing, and that's backed by science, of course. Like stress, any type of stress can make you ill. So it's really important that you face it and go through it. And it only becomes a problem when, after a certain amount of time, you still can't move away from it. And that's where everyone has that, like, and I have I have my own issues that I constantly have to take a look at as well. But you get to see the warning signs, and once you have some techniques to steer against it, then you can usually just stub it out before it becomes a problem again, before it arises. And I think it's really important to, when, for example, something bad happened in the past and you're constantly replaying it in your head, you really have to think about where you are right now, and what's actually happening around you right now. That's all mindfulness, and that it doesn't always have to be meditation. It could just be a reminder to not constantly live in your head. And by doing that, you're also growing a sense of confidence that you're in control of your emotions. Or another thing I like to do, if, like, for example, last year when this whole COVID thing hit us, and I'll completely admit I was a wreck. I was an anxious little ball. I did not tell anyone online, because I kind of put on a brave face, and I would rather try and help my listeners and my friends, rather, instead of worrying them. But I was in a terrible place, and so the way I got out of that was by letting the emotions pass like clouds. I just imagined them to be clouds, and you notice them, and you're like, oh, I'm thinking this, I'm feeling that, but I'm not going to go into the why. I'm not going to acknowledge them. I'm only going to acknowledge them, sorry, and I'm just going to let them pass. And you just try and do that for 10 minutes a day, and before you know it, if you get hit with random stuff during the day, you're a bit more in control. Like, am I going to go into this feeling now, or am I just going to let that pass? Because it will. Like, feelings are like clouds. And yeah, I think that alone could help some people, if you just keep telling yourself that. It's not always something where you need to run to the doctor. By all means, I'm not a doc, and if you feel like you need help, definitely go and do it. But as you said yourself, not everything is always a mental illness immediately. It could just be some dark times that you're going through.
Yeah, and that's why I say that, because there's too many people, and I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with, like, someone may have mental illness, and it happens. It's fine. Like, it doesn't make them any less of a person. There's nothing wrong with them. But it's always the people that don't have it, that think they do, that immediately get in this headspace of like, oh, there's something wrong with me. And it's like, if you really have been falling on hard times and say you really need this upcoming job that you got an interview for, being extremely nervous about the interview because you want it to go right doesn't suddenly mean that you have clinical anxiety. It's everyone just slaps the label on things, and it's like, or like you were saying, to your point, the pandemic, and it affected a lot of people in a way where it was like, there's so much uncertainty that of course it's going to stress people out. It doesn't necessarily mean that they have anxiety. It's just a natural reaction to the unknown and something that's obviously harmful, and we had no idea how bad it's going to get. They made it sound like the fucking plague, where it's just wiping people out. You know what I mean? And naturally somebody's going to stress out over that. Doesn't necessarily mean that, they have this chemical imbalance in their brain. It's just a natural reaction to stressful shit. It's almost like, I think everybody knows by this point, I lost my son after his second birthday. He was born with a terminal condition, and, they gave him 2 weeks to live. He fought until 9 days after his second birthday. So then he decided on his terms he was done fighting, and what more could you ask for? And some days that's extremely depressing. Other days it's kind of like, man, he fought his ass off, and what more do you want? Like, I couldn't be more proud of him. And your brain's gonna have that way of coping. Your brain and your body are designed to protect themselves, and so to be kind of saddened because you miss him one day, and the next day you're like, you know what, man, he ain't suffering anymore. That doesn't make you bipolar, just because one day you've had a hard day, the next day you're seeing it in perspective. You can't diagnose yourself and be like, oh fuck, I got bipolar disorder because yesterday I was sad. Today it's like, fuck it. I understand why things happen for a reason. It's just you're viewing things. Sometimes we'll fall into a day or an hour or whatever, maybe we'll feel sorry for ourselves or some shit, or maybe something will just catch up to us. It doesn't mean we're fucking depressed. It's a natural reaction to sad shit. I would be more concerned about mental illness if I felt nothing,
Yeah, you're right.
if there's no emotion whatsoever, then,
Psychopath then. And
yeah, you might be a sociopath, like, but it's just like people need to chill. Not everything's depression, and self-diagnosing can be so dangerous.
Exactly. Yeah. And also you can get it in your head. You could probably make yourself ill if you tell yourself enough that you have this illness. You might bring it about, because it is all in your head. And yeah, it's a dangerous thing.
Absolutely. Or something.
Sorry, go on.
Just, somebody that, convinced themselves without any doctors, fucking telling them that they have clinical depression, and they have a friend that was diagnosed, and it's like, oh, well, let me take some of your antidepressants because I feel like I need them. And that's dangerous too.
Yeah. It's a bit like Googling your symptoms and it always comes out with cancer. Like, I've got a headache. Oh no, I've got brain tumor now.
Yeah, that happened.
A little bit like that. Yeah.
I had this ankle pain one time, and I looked it up, and it turned out I had ovarian cancer. So, I mean,
That's impressive.
Right? Right? I mean, fucking WebMD.
Yeah, crazy times we live in. Like, yeah, we didn't have this when we were younger. Like, couldn't just Google your symptoms. You'd have to go to the library and pick up a medical book, and that would be such a task and so boring. We'd rather just go to the doctor.
Right. It's so stupid. The things we have access to. It's kind of entertaining to a degree. It's one of those, you have to laugh to not be depressed. But
yeah,
going back to what we were talking about with like people like even like vegans versus, people that eat whatever, calling somebody stupid because they eat meat, or calling somebody an idiot because they don't, or whatever. It's like the internet has all this potential for us to learn so much shit and communicate with people, and this is what the fuck we do with it.
Yeah, or just constant, I don't know, narcissistic posts as well. That used to be a thing, or it's probably still a thing, I don't know.
Oh, it is.
Yeah. So, what was it I read somewhere? We have more technology in a smartphone that we did in certain things when we went to land on the moon. So we can do so much with it, and then we do really stupid stuff. So it's just you could learn everything on this little device, and I'm including myself there. So many times I'm like, why did I waste my time on YouTube for like an hour now? Like, I could have just learned a new skill, could have gone on Duolingo and carry on with my Italian course, but no, I just wanted something brain dead.
I'm totally guilty of that too. So I mean, there's that.
Yeah.
But to your point, I mean, look at Instagram, for example, kind of really rapidly catching up to Facebook in terms of users. And Instagram is just like the most vanity-driven pile of shit.
I know. It's it's really difficult sometimes, because I'm actually not someone who likes to constantly post about myself, but as a musician, you are your music, you have to. So, but every time I do, I feel like, oh God, I feel like I'm a narcissist, but I'm not. But it's just, I just look at it as work now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love connecting to people on there, and you have a laugh, and it's really sweet what some people say and all that. But there is this pressure that I have to do it again, and my reach has gone down. Now I have to post a selfie, because if you post a picture of yourself, no matter who you are, the algorithm favors that. So then it's just nuts to me. It's really counterintuitive, and I really had to learn a lot there to overcome it and do it.
All right, well, you're my fucking spirit animal then, because I'm in the same boat where I can't stand it. It feels obnoxious to me, but yet with my profession, like you have to. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, I've got the show. I own a network that I'm launching. That's for Roku, Fire Stick, Apple TV, and Android TV. I'm an actor now and shit, and like I got to do all this shit to promote myself, and I don't do none of it. Social media, like I don't even have a huge number because I don't post shit because I couldn't be bothered. It feels obnoxious constantly shoving yourself down people's throats, and yet I still like my personal assistant is constantly going down the rabbit hole. She's like, dude, just Google your name, and like there's so much stuff, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I'm not interested. She's like, the stuff you find is crazy. She sent me a picture of a website that they had a category for information, and they had a lot of stuff about me, but then they had stuff that they said unknown because they didn't figure it out yet. But those categories were like car color, it literally said relationship / affairs. I'm like, what the fuck? And
What?
they're like unknown, but like they're looking into it, and I'm like, what the fuck? It's just so nuts. And I'm like, why do people give a fuck about me that much that they need to know this shit?
Well, they look up to you, I guess, as well. And when people idolize you, they want to know every little thing about you so that they can become that, I guess.
It's just
or maybe they're just nosy.
It's just so weird to me. Like, I don't get it. And I always tell people, like, I'm just a dude with a cool job. That's it. I'm not better than anybody or anything like that. I don't know why people freak out if I have a conversation with them when they come up to me and they're like, oh, I'm a fan, whatever. That's cool. Let's talk. I'm like, I'm not better than nobody, man. I'm just, somebody that was fortunate enough to end up, going from a really rough life to fucking doing whatever I want now. It's cool. But when you start seeing like websites that are like, oh, this is how much money this motherfucker's worth, and like all this crazy shit.
Oh, that really winds me up. What do you mean? Like, how can someone be worth money? That's insane. Like, we are all worth the same. Like, yeah, I know what you mean. This net worth of someone. Like, what? Like, that's almost like slavery, isn't it?
They got it down to like, okay, net worth, like, what like he's made this, last year to this year, whatever, and they're like 1 to 5 mil and whatever. But it's like, but you don't know my hair color.
Yeah.
you don't know my social media handles for some reason, which that should be the easy part. How do you know all this other shit? It's so weird.
Yeah.
So when it was sent to me, I had fun with it because they put my height as unknown. So I said, I posted the picture of it and I said, 6'5", you nosy bastards.
Oh, I saw your post on Instagram. Yeah. What? Like I said, magic potion. Like Alice in Wonderland. It depends, like which potion you had and how much of it.
Right. Maybe I'll put myself in the dryer and shrink a little like a bad sweater. Who knows?
Yeah. But no, putting money on like a worth on people is just insane to me. It's a human being, But then it's insane to me when it comes to animals too. Like, why is a dog worth hundreds of pounds, or why is a cat worth so much? Like, how can they be worth money? Something that we made up. Like, we're all conscious beings, like that's worth more than anything. Can't put a price on that.
Right. It's so strange. And then when you find yourself on the receiving end of it, and like, it's really funny. I actually told my assistant, I'm like, stop sending me this shit because it's really weird. And I'm just not that dude. I don't have an ego. So I'm like, I don't understand it. And it really I'll stew in it all day, where I'll sit there and be like, why? Like, why me of all people? Like, when I was 15 and left home and lived on the streets and shit, so I was getting out of a bad situation, whatever, like nobody gave a fuck then. They're like, why now do I, get all these opportunities and have this fan base, and like, it's so strange because it's just like, I'm just a dude. I'm gonna smoke weed and watch old 80s Ninja Turtle cartoons. And this is who you look up to. Like, come on, man, you could do better. Raise the bar.
Oh no, I mean it's cool that they look up to you. I mean, of course, you've come a long way, and you should be proud of yourself. And it's great that you can motivate people that way. Someone else who's in a shitty situation right now might be looking at you and goes, "Oh, he managed to pull through. He managed to do it, and then maybe I can too." That's great. But yeah, it goes a bit weird when people Google all that and want to become you. It's a little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me think of more horror movies again.
And I mean, I totally get what you're saying, because I feel that way too. Like, if my crazy ass story could help some people that are currently going through it, I totally take that seriously. That's why when, a year or so ago, well, it was a couple of years ago, that it was pitched to me like they wanted to do a documentary about my life and whatever. And it wasn't until like a year ago that I finally said, okay, let's fucking do it, and it was just a mess because, I'll get on set, and first thing in the morning, just before filming, I find out that my grandfather who raised me passed. And I was like, I can't let that, even register right now, because I got to do this. I have to. There's people counting on me. You know what I mean? There's people that need this work. There's people that I can't let them down to take, feel sorry for myself and spend a day putting everything behind and whatever. So it's like, you got to keep moving on. But it's like, this story is what people, feel like others need to hear. So I'm like, all right, cool, I'll do it then. So now it's weird to have a documentary on DVD about my life and shit that people are like, hey man, I saw it and it was so fucking like, I needed to hear that. I take that so seriously because that's such a responsibility. I feel like if I'm going to have this platform to just kind of do whatever I want, I got to take it seriously and do something productive with it. So that I do take seriously. I completely agree with you on that. It's just all the weird shit, like, the admiration and whatever. I don't really understand. Because it's just not me, I'm just like anybody else. So, it is strange, and I am grateful for it. I know a lot of people probably think I come across like, I don't appreciate it, which I do. It's just I don't understand it. I just don't have that ego to be like, yeah, I deserve that. Do you not know who I am? Blah blah blah. That.
Yeah. Oh no.
Yeah. It's just, it just, I don't know. And people are like, well, you're famous and whatever. I'm like, I hate that word. It feels so filthy. Because there's so much ego that usually comes with it that I just can't stand. And to be labeled as, with that, and then people just kind of draw their own conclusions as to what you must be like. I don't know, just it feels weird.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah. But I don't know. I always think it's way cooler when people are humble. Obviously, it's way more attractive quality in the person, than someone tooting their own horn. What was it? Someone went on stage. Was it Kanye West who went on stage and shouted, "I'm the best"? And I just went, "Oh, really?
Yeah.
Why?"
Yeah, I mean, it's great and all to be confident in what and believe in what you're doing, because if you don't, why the fuck should anybody else? But being
right.
dick and being egotistical is not a good look. It's obnoxious.
I can imagine that fame can do that to people. Like when you hear something over and over again, you'll believe it yourself. And maybe some of these people believe that they are superhuman now. I don't know, but it's possible.
Yeah, I do agree with that. I mean, I've known a lot of people in the industry too that have admitted that after a while it got to their head a little bit because they didn't keep a grip on it and they let it get, beyond them. And, and they said, yeah, that's exactly what it is. You start hearing something every day. Yeah, you have people telling you every day how great you are and all this crap. You start to buy in, and you have to really be conscious of that and just kind of, understand that if you made it from, like in my case, if I made it from where I did, there's no reason other people can't. So it's not that I'm that fucking special. It's just I put in the work. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean that, you know, I'm better than anybody else. It's just I chased it and couldn't imagine doing anything else. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, I was just never somebody that really wanted to spend the rest of my life doing some bullshit 9 to 5, making other people rich and keeping myself poor. Um, you know, so I got into MMA and I fucking made a name for myself doing that. And then I got all these other opportunities. I was really blessed. I mean, I was a guest on a show where they were like, dude, you're 6'5" and 265 pounds of muscle. Why the fuck are you not like the next Jason or Myers in a horror movie? And I was like, because nobody asked. I would totally do it. So like, well, and here they are, they were a producer and they're like, well, we're going to make something happen then. And I think I was off that show for like 30 minutes, went on social media because it was a live show. I had literal directors and producers and people in the movie industry adding me on Facebook and was just hitting me up like, hey, so I heard you're interested in getting into movies and pitching ideas and opportunities. And I'm like, really? Just that easy? Like, it's weird when you're known for shit that like you get all these opportunities other people don't necessarily get just kind of thrown their way. So I firmly believe at this point in life, you know, being in my 30s and whatnot, I feel like the one thing that's really changed is I felt that life really is not about the material shit. It's about experiences.
Yeah.
Because that's what you will remember. I've owned so much material shit that I don't remember half of it. You know what I mean?
Plus, you can't take it with you when you die.
Right. It's worthless. You know, it's just
But you can leave something behind.
Yeah, it's just a nonsensical, like competitive thing, I think, with people. Everybody wants to have more than someone else, and I don't get all that. For me, what matters is experiencing things that I never thought I could or would get the chance to. And just memories, creating fucking memories. I mean, and stuff that lasts forever, basically, like doing movies now and things. It's like, even when I'm dead and gone, people will be able to watch the shit I do. And that's pretty cool to me. So, I mean, that to me is what's important because you'll always remember that. And, you know, when I'm on my deathbed, I'm probably not going to worry too much about my pop figure collection. You know what I'm saying?
What am I going to do with it? Stuff it in my coffin.
You know, I'm probably going to be more like looking back at what I've done and be like, did I leave my mark? You know?
Absolutely. Yeah.
I always feel like regret is the worst thing you can carry with you. So, you know, and nobody goes to their deathbed saying, I wish I worked more. You know,
No.
I would rather not feel like it's work at all. I'd rather enjoy what I do. So, you know, and I know a lot of people feel like, oh, that's easy for you to say you're living it. But it's like, dude, I had to do the bullshit jobs nobody wanted to get here. So we're all capable. You know, I haven't forgotten what that's like. But if I could do it under the circumstances that I've had, then damn sure anybody can. They just have to keep trying. It doesn't happen overnight, and just keep working at it. And you know, if you enjoy what you do, you never work a day in your life. And I think that would make for much happier people. We have to change the way we look at things. Like society seems to have this kind of control over people where they think this is just how it has to be. People just have to work a 9 to 5, get married, fucking, you know, die, you know, and that's it. Right. And it's like, no, dude, you could, you could travel, you could fucking have your dream job. You could do whatever you want. You just got to put in the work. You know, if you're not putting yourself out there, like no one's going to discover you sitting on your couch. Put in the work, put your stuff out there and let somebody discover your talent. It's just that easy.
Yeah. It's like people think these things just happen to you. I mean, if you go and just do a normal thing like a a job in a supermarket, it doesn't come to you by sitting on the couch and not applying for it. You still have to go out and get it, and and try a few times. So it's the same with everything. If you make your own luck, if you're an entrepreneur, I mean, every entrepreneur knows that failing is like what you do most of the time until you succeed, right? It's like
Right.
so many little failures along the way. But and I think that's one thing people are so afraid of, but what if I try and then I fail? Or I'm not trying because I'm too scared to fail, and then I've lost, and I left this job. And but first of all, you never know what happens, and if you fail, then you've got a new skill set, and then you can use that for the next level. So I always encourage everyone to follow their dreams and do what you feel you're here for, like what's your purpose. I think everyone's got their own little special power, and something that can help enrich others. And it'd be stupid not to share that, right?
Yeah, and I feel like everybody, like all people, have this weird, like, beneath the surface, I don't even think they realize it, like a subconscious trace of narcissism to a degree. Because if you notice people's mindset, it's very prideful and narcissistic, in the sense that on both sides of the spectrum here, it's, you got people that are like, well, I'm just hearing about you now, so you must be some overnight success. They have no idea that, just because you're hearing about somebody now doesn't mean they haven't been around for time. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
But the other side of the coin too is there's successful people that don't exactly want to advertise their failures. So then no wonder people get this idea that they're an overnight success, because they don't blast their failures along the way. So I don't believe in doing that. I believe like you should be open about it, so people have realistic expectations. So one time I posted that being successful is like being pregnant. Everybody congratulates you, but nobody knows how many times you've been fucked. You know what I mean? So I think it's important to be open about it and just be like, hey, man, it did not happen overnight. And the doors that get closed in your face got slammed shut in mine too. That's part of the process. Don't create. I think people like try to protect their spot. Like once they become successful, they don't want other people to do the same, because then they're not special, right? So it's like they want people to think it was meant to be for me, and the doors that got closed in your face are because it's not for you. Stay out of my territory, kind of deal.
I don't get competition at all. I've never really been competitive. It's like, especially with music. I mean, I've never heard of a single person saying, I only listen to Mozart. Like, I won't ever listen to anything else. Like, we all need different types of music for different, like we need a soundtrack for different scenarios in our lives. And I like a lot of different genres. And how is there competition? Like everyone gets their turn.
That's just it, right? If you love an art form, or if you love your industry, I think it's so important, if you want that industry to thrive, that I always say, when you reach the top of a mountain, find a bigger mountain, start climbing again. But before you do, throw some ropes down and help some people up to get to where you're at, because the industry needs to move on, and you can't just have one talent, you know what I mean, in the industry. If you want it to keep going and be relevant, you have to have all different types of talents. And it keeps the business alive, no matter what the field, whether it's music, whether it's movies, or whatever. It doesn't really matter. TV, you don't want to watch the same fucking show every day. Like, nobody has options. You want talent of all types. Imagine only one movie exists. How boring would that be?
Oh, no. Yeah.
I'm sorry, guys, but we have no other actors, so every fucking movie that we make is going to be the same 5 people.
Yeah,
it's awful.
These are the best actors, so that's what you get.
Like, right? So it's important to help people get to where you're at, because it keeps the business alive, which keeps everybody in work. And I think that's great. And we could learn so much from people. And I don't mind competitive nature if it's done in a healthy way, because I think every successful business was as successful as it was because it had somebody, neck and neck with them that keep challenging them to do better. I think that's great.
Oh yeah.
But to be, successful and like be competitive in a selfish way, I think is toxic. I think it's terrible for the industries, terrible for the world in general as a whole. Narcissism is going to be the death of us, I think.
Yes, absolutely. I agree.
You look at, like, again, Instagram. Everybody thinks they're an Instagram model now. It's like, that's not a thing, dude. If you're not getting paid for it, you're not a model. You're somebody who uses filters and fucking puts your shit on Instagram to stroke your own ego because it's a narcissistic platform.
Yeah. And also it gives you a total false sense of who these people are and what they're going through. I mean, Instagram is always full of happy, amazing posts, like, oh, I want that kind of life, but they don't know that the person might be chronically ill, like, and depressed, and but they're always happy and smiling on their Instagram photos because they would never allow to show the real, the real you is something that doesn't really happen on Instagram anymore. And I think that's sad. I get it to a point. You don't want the other end of it where you're just constantly putting all your negativity out there either, but there needs to be a balance, man, because it's just, people are growing up thinking there are others leading a perfect life, and this is just not true. They've got their problems too. And yeah, so many young girls, I can imagine it's probably really difficult growing up now. It doesn't matter what gender you are, actually, but if you look at Instagram and all these models or so-called models, and they're always showing the most flattering photos of themselves. They never have a pimple, they never have like a little bit of an extra pound hanging on here and there. In reality they do, but they won't ever post these photos. So again, like, it's not good for mental health, I think, if you believe everything you see.
Exactly. I mean, people chasing things that don't exist. I mean, it could be said for movies with, like, rom-coms and stuff like that, where it's like everything's so great in the end, and breakups never last, and there's always this happy ending. No, sometimes life's just not fucking perfect. And then Instagram, it's like you got all these airbrushed pictures of people that Photoshop themselves and do all this shit to look perfect, and like you said, never a bad day. And it's like all this unrealistic shit that people are chasing, something that just can't be. Nobody's perfect, and yet they're trying to, like, chase this image that somebody's created as if they are perfect and they figured it out. And yeah, you're right, for especially younger kids of any gender, really, it's a pretty toxic example to follow, because they're chasing something that doesn't exist because it looks so real, it looks so good to them. It's everywhere they go. It's in movies, it's in fucking social media, all the things that they thrive on, the things that they live off of on a daily basis. Social media is a daily routine. Movies are a very common pastime, and it's just thrown in your face everywhere you go that there's all this, like, perfection out there. In movies there's makeup and there's lighting, and nobody wants to come across looking like shit. You know what I mean? So it's very toxic if people don't see through it and realize that even Instagram and all those bullshit pictures, it's all part of entertainment, because that's about all it's worth. Because it's entertaining as fuck if you think that any of that's real. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I do hope this gets taught in schools. I hope there's some education helping out young people there, because I mean, we didn't need this, but yeah, weird time to grow up.
I love that. I think that needs to be like a new curriculum and to navigate through the world now that it's so social media based. Yeah, I think they need to start touching on that and kind of helping people. um like we have all this technology now. Like back in the day when I was in school, it was like they taught you how to write checks. Well, now we have so much like e-transfer shit and like debit and all this crap that's so predominant. You tap your card and it's fucking done. Why not start replacing some of that archaic shit with like how to navigate through social media so you can survive and not take everything to heart, take everything so seriously, not get scammed by, fake profiles and, life lessons that now apply to their way of life, because things are so different now than they were, say, in the 90s,
Yeah.
in the 80s, night and day. So the more the internet has become a daily part of life, I think we need to teach younger people how to navigate it. And, yeah, that's a kind of at home responsibility too, but schools could reinforce that, I think, and educate people on that. And, we'd probably have a lot less teens feeling like shit about themselves because they're everywhere they go, they see like these examples of so-called perfection because people are so vain, they're hiding their flaws with airbrushing and filters and Photoshop and these fake
I mean,
images.
there's an art form to it, right? I mean, I edit my photos too, because I want to create a different experience that goes with my music. My music is edited, but I won't go too far. I won't do it to a point where someone goes, "Oh, that's you." And I think that's where it's dangerous, like when it's not an art form anymore.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. I don't want to break the fourth wall too much, but I'm sure you have a sneaking suspicion I'm not actually in a fucking warehouse that's abandoned. So, I totally get it. I've created some shit myself, because that's what you do for entertainment purposes. You have to have an aesthetically pleasing, layout and all that. So yeah, no, I totally get that. It's more the people that are just like, it's daily life for them. It's not part of their career or anything. And to them it's harmless, but I don't think they realize like you're kind of leaving an impression on some very impressionable young people that might have a unrealistic expectation um, of what life should be, because they see you as a normal person who seems to have it all together. And that's probably not really, anything more than smoke and mirrors. Um, Probably not completely accurate. Life might be good, but I mean, we all have our days, right? And I think most people just stay off social media on those days and nobody has to know, right? And I think there's a bit of harmful nature to that where we could be a little more honest and be like, hey, man, you know what? It's not always easy. Sometimes, even when you're successful, you don't get every opportunity you want. Sometimes someone's going to get a fucking acting gig over you because they've got more experience or they fit the role better or something, it happens. But maybe we should normalize congratulating the person that got the job over you, and that way it shows people like, hey, we don't all just get these roles like handed to us because we're so fucking important, not everything's perfect, no matter how successful you might be. Fucking you could have, say, any of your music hit the charts and be number one, but you'll also probably be totally comfortable saying, hey man, I put out a lot of stuff, not all of it made it to the top. That's just the way it goes. There's so much competition out there and so much stuff, so much material that you'll win some, you lose some, instead of just highlighting the wins. Sometimes we got to bite the bullet a little bit and just kind of show people behind the curtain and be like, hey, sometimes, here's the failures that led up to this. And I think that's doing people a favor, honestly.
Yeah, it's helping them as well.
Definitely.
I wish there was more of that out there. It's good inspiration, actually. I think I'm going to do like a little compilation at some point of, you know, when things do go wrong.
Yeah.
It can be really entertaining. I mean, I think it's funny. So
You know what? Honestly, I put a show out where I totally forgot to do like outro music and whatever, like I always do. And I'm like, people are going to catch that. I didn't edit it and go back and pull it and fix it and put it back up. I actually flat out on the next show said, you probably noticed that last show I didn't do intro or outro music. And I said, there was a technical issue that in the industry we call marijuana. I was high as shit and I fucked up and I forgot. You know, it is what it is. I'm not gonna bullshit people and hide it and be like, well, we'll just pull that before anyone hears it. Fuck it, own it. You know, sometimes even in the industry, like things go wrong. It is what it is.
yeah,
Let's embrace it. Fuck it, you know.
yeah, it's completely
Normalize.
normal.
Yeah, normalize your failures, man, because they're gonna happen. So why hide it? You know, I think it actually makes other people take a breath and say, okay, this is not going to kill my career because of a slip, you know, or something went wrong. Or I've had a show that I did, and it sucks to waste people's time, but I had a show that I did with someone that works for Elon Musk and works for SpaceX, and fucking, it was such a great interview. Like talking to them was fun as shit. We had a great time. We laughed our asses off, and you know, but unfortunately their connection was so bad that they were cutting out so much that the audio was completely unusable. And
Oh, shame.
so I'm like, you know, I talk about it on the next show. I'm like, damn, I had the coolest fucking interview, but shit happens, you know, and somebody's connection, they were not in their typical setting and they were on their phone, and I guess their Wi-Fi connection was so choppy that they sounded robotic the whole time. They were cut out, you know, you couldn't hear like anything. It wasn't just a couple sentences or whatever. It was literally throughout the show, to the point where I had the conversation. I couldn't tell you what he was saying. So I was like, fuck it. You know, I can't use this. So why not talk about it and just be like, hey man, we'll get him back on the show again because he's a friend of mine, and you know, I can do that. But it's just a shame that we lost that show, but life happens. Technology is not perfect. You know, why hide it? Why pretend that it never happened? Fuck it. You put it out there, you know, even if it's not anyone's fault, it's, you know, it just lets people know that sometimes technology will kind of kick you while you're down, and not,
Yeah,
you know, shit happens. Like, don't sweat it, because there's people that are like indie podcasts. They're like, you know, they try to put on this image like they fucking, because they want to make it so bad and do this for a living. And it's like, you're going to run into some shit, and that's not your fault. And it's not going to stop you from being able to make it. Like, if your content's solid, then, you know, you'll be fine. Technology shit happens to everybody. None of us are immune. I don't care how expensive your shit is. It's going to fuck up. You know what I mean?
yeah, absolutely. Tell me about it.
You know,
We've had so many issues with the internet here, and we apparently we have premium, but I don't really see how that's premium most of the time. So it seems to be working good, okay. So today, so yeah, I'm just glad that I'm not constantly cutting out. But yeah, it happens to everyone, no matter who you are, no matter where you are.
yeah, you know, I don't believe normalizing hiding failures and you know, flaws and shit is normal. I don't think that's a good move. I don't think it's responsible. I think we need to be a little more honest about things, and then we could all relax a little bit, you know. You know, that's why I love when movies and shit will show at the end all the fuck ups, when people botch their lines or forget what the hell they're doing, or, you know, because it happens like so much. So why not own it, you know, and let people know it doesn't have to be that serious. You'll get it eventually. It's fine. It just makes people dwell, I think, on their shortcomings. If they attempt something and fail, they really beat themselves up, because they, in their mind, it's so natural to everyone else, because they don't see all the outtakes and all the bullshit, the trips, and, you know, the trip ups and the failures. And the people getting back up and attempting it again, they just see the finished product of like it worked. You know what I mean? They think people get it first shot and they're the only ones that can't.
Yeah, right. And also, if it's your own show or your own creation, then you always see all the flaws anyway. You don't tend to see that with someone else's. So
Right. And like I said, going back to that show, it's a shame because we had such a good time, and I thought some of this content people would find so damn amusing because we were laughing our asses off about. I mean, the guy works for SpaceX, and Elon Musk. Of course, you have to talk about technology, and I just thought the irony was fucking hysterical that his wasn't working. But we were talking about, I had an Xbox One headset that sucked. So I was like, fuck this thing. And I said, I never bothered getting a new one because I was in no hurry to have a 13-year-old on the other side of the world tell me that they fuck my mother or something, like they tend to talk so much shit. So we got into talking about, I wonder if back when they had like Morse code, if they use that to just talk shit,
oh, I bet they did. They had to.
Like, just if trolling goes that far back, you know what I mean? Ball busting, even in Morse code, somebody's like, yeah, your mom, buddy. We were cracking up, and I was like, none of this is usable. It's terrible. But it would have been so great. But I thought it's hilarious. Part of me says, oh, fuck, I should have just aired the show and be like, this guy works for SpaceX, which is all about technology. And listen to this shit pile technology he's using, because you don't fucking hear a word he's saying.
That's totally normal to me to hear this. I'm really not surprised because I have a lot of nerds and very geeky people in my family, and they're really good at fixing everyone else's computers and they really know what they're doing. But then when it's their own stuff, it always breaks down. And over the weirdest stuff. It's just like, why is your computer not working again? Like, oh, I tried to tweak it here and did this on it, and now it's like, I'm dying. And just like, how are you sure you know what you're doing? It's a really common thing, actually, I think, in the technology world, that things just constantly go wrong.
That's how they're able to fix your shit. They learn what not to do on theirs.
Hey.
The process of elimination.
Like hairdressers. I know some hairdressers, and they were like, oh, I can never get my hair done. Why not? Like, why can't you have perfect hair? You're a hairdresser. Because I'm too busy doing everyone else's hair. So never get the time. Something like that, I think.
Yeah, I mean, plus it's got to be complicated and difficult to reach, and see what you're doing on yourself.
Gosh, yeah.
It's just like when I was a tattoo artist back in the day. It was like, you practice on yourself and then you become good enough to work on other people. So it's always funny when you see tattoo artists that you can tell they practiced on themselves first, because if they have really shitty ink, but yet they do all this cool stuff for everyone else, it's like, how did that happen? It's like, well, how do you think I learned?
Wow. That must be a weird thing to practice on yourself. I mean, yeah, I couldn't really imagine it. Like, I wax my own eyebrows, and every time I do it, there's this little thing I have to overcome of actually doing it, because I know it's going to be painful. If someone else does it, it's fine, because then I can just relax and breathe and let it happen. But when you're the one doing it, like, oh, no, I tip my hat. I couldn't do that. I'd freak out. I've got loads of tattoos, but I couldn't, like, even if I could draw, even if I was a tattooist, I couldn't imagine doing it to myself. I'm too busy, like, breathing deep and like relaxing.
Oh my God, it's so funny. It's just the way it goes. I mean, you have to have a sense of humor about these things. You know what I mean? And, it's so funny that in all this shit where like people are trying to be so perfect, it's I don't know how they get by. I put my shit on display, I think, where it's like, well, that didn't go the way I fucking wanted it to. I'll be the first to say sometimes, like, hey man, I wanted this guest on my show, and unfortunately their schedule is just too fucking busy right now to do press and whatever. And it is what it is, man. It would be easy to just say, well, I'll just keep that to myself and no one will even know I tried to get this person or whatever. But it's like, why? And people get busy and it's fine. It's like, here's who I'd like to get. And then it's like busy or whatever. So it's like, okay, we'll do this another time. Or announcing, for example, that somebody is going to be on your show and then something happens where they get double booked or something. And they're like, shit, I got to reschedule. Maybe some people fucking hate having to tell people, something happened and now I got to reschedule. But it happens. Why is that something you got to brush under the rug and just hope people forget that you said you're getting that person on your show? You know what I mean?
But cancellations and reschedule always happens, doesn't it? I mean,
all the time,
no matter what.
All the time. And I love posting shit that kind of shows people like it's okay to be humble. You know what I'm saying? There was a fucking absolute legend in the music industry that's coming on my show. He was supposed to be on, and this is what happened. So it's pretty funny. He's played for Misfits and Murder Dolls with Slipknot's former drummer, and he's played for so many people, Joan Jett and fucking all this, and I announced that he's coming on the show, and then fucking I end up posting like, no matter how famous you are, the spam folder doesn't give a fuck how famous you are, because my email to him went straight to his spam folder, so he didn't see it for a bit. So I was like, okay, did he just fucking like ghost me after agreeing to be on the show? And I'm like, nah, something happened. And sure enough, he hit me up, hey, you went to the fucking spam folder again for some reason. And I'm like, all right, shit happens, we'll set this up. He ends up wanting to set it up for today, and it turned out to be the exact same time that I had you coming on, and I was like, okay, well, I didn't get a fucking
no.
So, and then I think it went to his spam folder again anyway, so it doesn't matter. I didn't fucking hear from him again.
Why did it go to his spam folder?
So I was like, the spam folder don't discriminate. It don't give a fuck what you've accomplished or how famous you are. It will straight up disrespect you. So I actually took a screenshot of that email he sent me saying that I went to the spam folder, and I posted it on social media saying, let that be a humbling lesson to all y'all. Fucking the spam folder don't give a fuck how famous you are. So just a humble reminder that no matter what I've accomplished, the spam folder don't give a fuck. It ain't impressed. It's just gonna big league me.
That's brilliant.
It lets people know, like, these things happen. Not everything's so cut and dry, and as wonderful as it is to be known enough that I could hit up anybody thus far and be like, hey, I'd love to have you on, and they're like, damn, sure, that's cool. But it's not always that way. Sometimes people are either busy or fucking we have what we call the Hollywood no, which means you just never get a fucking response. And I think we've all been there too a couple times. We've all done it to people, I think, too, because you get really busy and you can't really respond to everything. My personal assistant doesn't always have time to fucking respond to every little request, and you're not trying to be an asshole. It's just, or sometimes it goes to your spam folder. You don't even fucking see it.
Yeah, it happens all the time.
Yeah, and it's not like you're trying to disrespect anybody or personally, when I'm asked to be a guest on people's shit, I fucking try to make it a point, no matter how big or small their show may be. I try to make it a point to do it because, I enjoy doing it. And again, I'm not better than anybody. So, fuck it. But if it goes in my spam folder, then take that up with the spam folder, because you haven't impressed it yet. Neither have I, apparently. So
That's bizarre.
right.
I don't get how you keep landing in his spam, like,
Yeah,
because you can whitelist people. Maybe he didn't whitelist you or something. I don't know.
motherfucker. We're gonna have some words about that when I get them on finally.
Like what I do, I just click it's not spam, then unflag it, and then I move it to my inbox. And then usually, unless you don't do that, then it won't go into your spam again. As far as I know, I'm not an expert with this, but yeah.
I was under the same belief. Once you open it, it seems like it's welcomed, and then it's not spam anymore. But apparently,
Well, I hope that at some point you can communicate with him and have him on your show.
yeah, we're working on that. It's just a slow process, but I'm not in any rush. I don't give a fuck. You know, I was grateful that it went to his spam folder again, because I was like, okay, it's either that or I tell him, look, somebody else is already booked for that exact time, and you know, they came first. I don't give a fuck. You know, I hate when people try to prioritize. Well, this person, you know, did this, and you know, compare. It's like, no, I booked somebody, and that's that. I honor it. I was looking forward to this show with you for fucking, you know, since day one when we agreed to do it. I wasn't, you know, changing that time frame for anybody. I don't give a fuck who they are, you know.
Oh, thank you. That's
Sure.
that means a lot. Not everyone does that.
Well, hey,
I mean,
sure.
I wouldn't have had any issue if you said, "Oh, can we reschedule?" That would have been fine as well. You know, I'm easy, but
That,
I
yeah.
really appreciate that though.
Oh yeah, that wouldn't sit well with me. I mean, short of God himself, I think you might have to take a backseat to that one, or else I ain't gonna fucking see the end of the day. But but otherwise, no person is coming before somebody I committed to. It's just not right, you know. And I was looking forward to this, so I was pretty stoked about it. I was like, damn, I wish it would hurry up and get here. So. And it's been worth it. That's for damn sure. It was well worth waiting for, because you know, I'm having a blast with this shit. So thank you to his spam folder.
Oh, the spam trolls. That's funny.
You know, fucking spam. You know, you have to have fun with it. You really do. But shit.
Yeah, I land in people's spam as well. I mean, you know, with my email list, and when I email my listeners, and oftentimes like, oh, I only just saw this. Like, you're in my spam. I'm like, yeah, it happens. You know?
I always check mine now out of paranoia, because I'm not sure who's may have fallen in there and I don't realize it. And you know, you end up finding out people think you're big leaguing them and shit. And it's like, I just didn't know. You know?
My mum was in my spam folder the other day. It's like, why is my mum in here?
See, I'm telling you, man, the spam folder don't give a fuck who you are. It
No,
humbles everybody.
no discrimination there.
None. I think it's got that one goal, is to humble people.
Yeah. And to just fuck with them and their schedules.
Right. You know, it's like it's evolving. The spam folder used to pick up just shit that was obviously blatant spam. But now it's like, you know what? People are getting too narcissistic. Let's bring them down a few pegs.
Oh gosh. I don't think the spam folder thought that with you though, because you're nice and humble. So yeah, it was just messing with you.
Maybe I just wanted to keep it that way. It's like, yeah, you remember.
We're all spam sometimes.
That's right. You're not important, dickhead. You're going right in his spam folder. Oh my God. Oh, I've taken up so much of your damn time.
No, it's fun. I made loads of time on purpose because yeah, I knew it would be worth it. I love our little hangout. Thank you.
Definitely appreciate it. Is there anything you want to plug? That, I mean, you got so much stuff that, you know, is awesome, that if you want to talk about what platforms you can be found at or anything like that, have at her.
Yeah, so if folks want to listen to my music, you can go to miramorningstar.co.uk /free music. and that's where you get free downloads, or you can stream them straight to your inbox, and followed by a few little blog posts where I introduce myself, and I love connecting with people and hearing what you guys think. So, and that's pretty much it, really. You can also just go on my website and check it out, miramorningstar.co.uk. And yeah, I don't do too much on social media, and in terms of, I put content out there, but it's not the same content as in my blog post. That tends to be a bit more, a bit more me, more real, because it's my platform, and I just do what I want there. And yeah, so that's it, really. I don't do too much social media unless I have to.
I'm with you. I spend more time on my IMDb, I think, than I do on my fucking Instagram.
Yeah.
Just updating shows and, giving people IMDb credits for being on my show and shit like that. But Instagram, I neglect it pretty hardcore. I'm sure you've noticed.
I think it's actually really cool. Like, I still kind of rely on it. So I have to make myself post sometimes. And again, I don't want it to sound like it's just pressure that's making me post. I do enjoy chatting to people. I really do. And, sometimes it even makes my day. But as I said before, it's having to do it, and yeah. And the complications with it sometimes. Like I don't want people to think that, my life is always perfect. It's not. And try not to make it sound that way. But now I'm not really a social media person, I must admit. It is something that I just have to do as a modern day indie musician. You just have to do it.
I agree. I'm the same way. I miss almost being able to talk to people and touch base with people, but it's gotten to a point where so I opened the floodgates of my social media on, like, I have a fan profile, I have my personal profile, and then I have my profile that's safe for like having fans and shit on my friends list, because it's less personal stuff out there. Not that my personal shit's all that fucking, important either, but or fascinating. But
you'd be surprised. think about your height and stuff, and the color of your car.
Right. So, I opened the floodgates by kind of changing my privacy settings again, so people can actually add me without being friends of friends or whatever. And the other day I had a show to do, so I literally had like a 3.5 hour fucking nap, because that's all the sleep I've gotten. Just before the show, I was like, okay, fuck it, sleep's not happening. I'll crash for like 3 hours or whatever. And between that time, I had over 99 plus notifications. It was like over 100 friend requests, like in that short window. I'm like, damn.
Wow.
And then there's all these messages, and it's like, if I respond to one, I have to respond to all of them, and I just don't have the time to do that, because it's not even like, hey, just wanted to say this, that. No, like, these people want full-on conversations with you, and it's like, I have so much shit on my plate, dude. I don't have time for all that. So, I wish I could go back to when I could do that and just be like, hey, thanks for the support and whatever. But it's like, it gets to be like way too many people that you just can't do it. And it's, and then you feel like a dick, but it's like, I'd get nothing done if.
Yeah. Oh no, totally. I relate to that so much. My messenger and my inbox on what's it called, DMs on Instagram, they blow up so much. And it's really sweet. Like oftentimes it is only just a little thing, like a heart or something that someone posts in response to a story, or sometimes it's lovely feedback, and other times it's just creeps being creeps. There's a whole mixed bag, and it's difficult, because oftentimes there are people who I would love to connect with to more, but I just can't, because I don't have the time, because there are a few of them. And if I chatted with every single one of them every day, every hour, when would I make my third album? Like, if you love my music, then you also have to understand that I can't constantly chat, even if I really want to. I just can't. And yeah, I know how you feel. Like sometimes you just feel like, oh, I wish I could just respond to these people, and I can't. So I have to have an autoresponder on social media. And yeah, email is the best way to reach me, really, because then I can put everything in a folder, and generally that filters out the creeps as well.
Yeah, I feel you on that, because fucking I can only imagine for a woman how bad it's got to be, because I mean, I love my fans, but I do get the occasional one or two that I leave the conversation or the message under the impression, pretty confident that given the chance they would try to turn me into a lampshade or some shit. So I mean, you know, I don't want to be somebody's skin suit. I'm good on that. So
no Ed Geins here.
yeah, I'm not trying to find myself locked in someone's basement. But there's some creepy ass people out there that just, I don't know if it's a lack of boundaries thing or a little bit crazy, but it's like, damn, that's just not the way to handle things. But okay. We'll just avoid that person like the plague. It's probably worse for you. I would imagine you get it more often. Probably a lot of pervs and shit like that, which is so common.
It's really common, yeah. But I don't really get it. I mean, who would go, yes, I love this pervy comment, take me out for a meal,
Right.
What? what I mean, I don't get what these people expect. Like,
yeah,
it makes no sense.
Old strategy.
Yeah.
Well, we gotta definitely do this again, because this was a blast.
Oh, I'd love to.
Shit, anytime. I love it. I could talk for hours, but fucking, I'm sure you got shit to do. I know I got probably some editing that needs to be fucking either done on my end or overseen by me or whatever the fuck. I don't know how this day is going to turn out, but goddamn. This was the most pleasant part of the day.
What time is it for you now?
It is, good question. It is 5:08 p.m.
5:08. It's 9 o'clock here.
I figured, yeah. See, I gotta remind myself.
It's getting all dark here.
Yeah, I gotta keep reminding myself you're 4 hours ahead too, and I gotta stay conscious of that. I'm like, I've taken up so much of your time, and it's probably getting late for you. And
no, it's been an absolute pleasure. It really has.
Oh.
Thank you so much for having me on here.
Oh, thanks for coming on. It's been a blast, and we definitely have to do it again. Anytime you're free and you want to come on, it's an open invitation. So just let me know when and where, and we'll set it up and make it happen, because this was awesome.
It was a cool hangout. I really love this.
This is what I do. Like, I don't do that robotic Q&A bullshit, because like that bores people. I've been in so many interviews where I'm asked the same bloody questions over and over by like everybody, and everyone thinks they're the first to ask, and it's like nobody wants to hear that shit. Like, it's so played out. Just let people talk about whatever they want, and they will, and it's more endearing to people, I think, to kind of get to know the personality of somebody, because then they're more inclined to support them because they can relate to them, right?
Right.
Rather than just the same old, so who are your influences and how did you get fuck off? If somebody wants to tell that story, they're free to. But I don't like to box people into any specific subject. And with the Q&A thing also, I find when you're asked a question, you're hoping for a follow-up because there's more to it. And then that never comes because they're so strict on the list of, okay, now I got to ask this and that. It doesn't make for, a good conversation. So I always prefer to let people just kind of talk about whatever they want and see where the conversation takes you. And I think people enjoy that more.
Yeah, I enjoy that more. I've listened to I think almost all of your podcasts now leading up to this, because I wanted to know what is it all about. And that's one thing that really struck out for me. It's like, wow, like this is just so organic. I feel like I'm, you know, a little fly on the wall listening in, or part of it, you know, not talking at the same time, but yeah, it feels more organic and it's just more natural. I'm totally down with that.
I love that, because that's exactly what makes me want to listen to people's shows. Is like I'll play video games or something in my downtime and just listen to, you know, shows like that where it's just an organic conversation, because then you feel like you're part of it, and you know, you get to know people better. I feel like I've gotten to know you a hell of a lot better than I would if I just asked you the generic bullshit questions that, you know, didn't take any thought or creativity. So I felt like this was way more productive and beneficial, because now if that's how I feel, then obviously your fans and your listeners and everything is going to feel like they get to know you a little bit better too. So they can relate to you more by seeing how, you know, cool you are and down to earth and everything. And I think they'll probably support you even more now, just because they see what an awesome person you are. So I think that's great.
Oh.
You know,
Well, I really appreciate that. No, I yeah, it's the best format. Well done. It's a really cool thing that you came up with this.
Well, I appreciate that. So definitely, anytime you want to come back, if you want to promote anything, you got something new stuff coming out you want to talk about and get out there, let's do it.
Yes, cool.
All
Also,
right.
paranormal stuff. I heard you love paranormal stuff. I'd love to have a little chat with you about that.
Oh, we definitely have to do that then, for sure. I'm so fascinated by that kind of stuff. So I could get on that for days.
Yeah, let's do it soon.
Absolutely. Yeah. Just shoot me an email whenever you're free and want to do it. It doesn't matter when. And because like I said, it's not live anyway. I pre-record everything. We can release it whenever you want. So if you have something coming out and you want to set it up, I've dealt with people where they would come on to promote something. Like I had Johnny Brennan from the Jerky Boys and Family Guy come on, and he had a new CD for his Jerky Boys material coming out, and said, I just can't have it released until after this date, if that's okay. And I said, absolutely, because that was when it was coming out. So it was to promote it after it had just released rather than before.
Oh, cool.
Just in case any snags come up and then the release date gets pushed back or whatever, you know, all the precautionary stuff. But it's like, okay, well, it's not live, so I can release it literally whenever you want. So we could do that too. So
Oh, awesome. Thank you.
anytime. Free advertising, right?
Yeah, and I just love the chat, really. It's really cool.
Yeah, it's been a blast. Like I said, I could go on for days, but you know, it's
Yeah,
good
you
you, and I don't want to be that guy. So yeah, final thought is stay out of her fucking emails, you perverts, and let her do her thing, man. In peace. Damn.
Oh. Well, no, luckily it's not too many people, you know, like yeah, and those are not generally fans, you know, like they're just randomers. They've never even heard my music. They're not interested in me or what I have to say or what I have to offer. It's just like, oh, it's a woman.
Right, you know.
Yeah, it's just that kind of thing. So, and we all get it, I guess. So
Yeah, they just saw you and they're like, oh, I'm gonna go, you know, like, I don't know what makes people feel like, you know, just because they thought it, they had to say it. I don't get it, but you know, teach their own, I guess. But at least it gives you some form of entertainment to come on my shit and talk about them, and
yeah.
give them their 15 seconds of shame.
The internet is a playground.
Right? Maybe that's what we'll do next show, is just roast the perverts for a good hour or so. And
I don't know. We've got so much cool stuff to talk about. Like, why put energy in that? Like,
that's true. That's true.
look at side note, you know.
That is definitely true. Yeah, we could definitely do the paranormal conversation next time. That'll be cool.
Yeah. Do you have ghost stories?
I've got a couple of weird incidents that I can't for the life of me explain. So I think we got some cool shit to talk about.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Yeah, definitely. Like I said, whenever you want, set it up, and I'll book you, and you'll be priority, and we'll do this again for sure.
Oh, awesome. Oh, so good to make friends with you. You're an awesome guy. And yeah, I hope the rest of your day goes really well on your editing and stuff.
I appreciate it. Thanks. You're awesome. We just kind of immediately meshed, so that's cool. And definitely look forward to doing this again. So yeah, hopefully the rest of your night is good and you don't have too much work to do.
It's music making now, so that's the best part of it.
Oh, perfect. There you go. Well, thanks for coming. I appreciate that. And I'll definitely throw in some ads for your stuff too. So that way people get a bit of an example of what it is you do if they haven't heard your stuff yet, and they'll be inclined to go and check it out.
Oh, cool. Thank you. Well, let me know if you need anything specific.
Oh, awesome.
That help you out.
Yeah, if there's anything in particular you want people to hear, just send it to me in my email or whatever, and I can throw it in for you.
Okay, awesome.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's do this again. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Have a good one.
You too. See you soon.
Mira Morningstar. So that's how it's done. One of the best guests ever. She rocked it, and I had such a great time talking to her. She's family now, man. She's immediately one of my closest friends. You know, she's family immediately with me. Just an absolute genuine person, absolute sweetheart. And you couldn't ask for a better energy, you know what I mean, when associating with people. So I look forward to having her back on the show again. We're going to talk about paranormal things and wherever the conversation takes us after that, because you know it's going to be another one where we just kind of go off on our tangent, basically. But that's what makes a great conversation. Hopefully you enjoyed listening to it as much as I enjoyed having the conversation, because, you know, here's the thing, man. We can't all, we can't always love the guests that we have. And I've had some guests that, for me personally, it wasn't as fun as this one was, that's for sure. And not, some of them, it's like, okay, well, that fucking wasn't what I had in mind. And, I've had a few guests like that where, unfortunately, it just didn't really bring to the table what I would hope for. Didn't enjoy it as much, but that's the business, man. That's the way it goes. You're going to run into guests that aren't exactly, fucking as entertaining as you would like in your view, but you're catering to your audience, not yourself. So, for all I know, maybe you guys love some of the guests that I had that I personally didn't feel a connection with, but this is one that I definitely did. And I always hope for guests like this one because I had such a great time. And it's just one of the rewarding parts of the job is when you get a gem like this that comes on and is just super cool. So I look forward to doing it again. And with that being said, I will catch your asses later, man. Take care of yourselves.
I will not speak to your smallness, a destruction of the fear in us. I have yet to know what I should